Hi, I'm Eric. I'm based in the UK and I am currently looking at investing my pension in a SIPP. So what I talk about generally on this channel is how I use the SIPP and what my aims are really. So I'm probably 3 years away from retirement at the moment. I'm quite fortunate in that quite a lot of what I'll be relying on will be defined benefits pensions, so final salary type schemes. But I do have about £125,000 in a defined contribution SIPP as well. So what I did a few years ago is I combined about 6 or 7 of small employer defined contribution pensions into a single SIPP. Now, because I'm only 3 years away from retirement, I'm really looking at minimizing the risk on that. I'd definitely describe myself as a cautious investor. So I am currently looking at about 60% of that 125,000 pot, which is in my SIPP, goes into an overnight market fund, and that consistently gives me 5.2%. I'll put a chart up here for you showing what that looks like over the last 12 months. So that's my really secure part of my £125,000 investment. Another 30% generally goes in the all world shares. So a little bit more risky, but over the last 50 years or so, they generally provide about 9%, and very well diversified. So, it covers the whole globe politically. It covers all the different sectors. In fact, it's about 4,000 shares in there actually. So up and down for 1 or 2 shares won't really make much of a difference. So that's the next part of my risk portfolio. Really, is 30% in the all world shares, and that's fairly common, I think. Now the next 10% is what I describe as the fun part, really. So that's where I will go into the stock market. It's 10% of my shares, and no, it's at risk. I don't tend to buy penny stocks, anything that is ridiculously kind of up and down, or if I do, it'll only be £100 worth of invested in there. But that's really where I keep an interest in what I'm doing with my investments. So part of what I wanted to do here today is to show you where I'm going to be placing my 10%, my £12,500 this week. So stay tuned. Okay, so when I'm looking at investing my 10% into stocks and shares, I like to use different tools on the internet to find interesting stock ideas. And one particular thing that I like to do is find a good Wall Street analyst. So I've done a bit of research, looked at lots of different analysts on the stock market, and found one who I think has some interesting views generally. So if I have a look at the top analysts here, I can see that I get a list of all these top analysts, and it'll give you lots of information on how well they've performed and what percentile they're in terms of their past history in investing. One particular analyst I'm interested in is a guy called Gil Blum, who is a specialist investing in pharmaceutical type companies. So if I have a look at Blum, there we go, Gil Blum Healthcare. There we go. So at the moment, these are some of his best ratings. So as you can see, there we go, Shattuck Labs gained 415%, Merio gained 364%. So these are some of the shares he's recommending. So if we have a look at here, so I think what I'll do today is I'll have a look at some of these particular shares here. So we've got Shattuck Labs, we've got Geron, we've got Taysha, and Serapta Therapeutics. So I'm going to invest a very small amount, probably $100 each in these, specifically because I know Gil Blum is an analyst that I'm particularly interested in. So I could go into each of these companies and have a really in-depth look at the different analyst forecasts and their financials and their background. But what I'm going to do today, for the sake of this one, is really just have a bit of a punt, really, in the fact that Gil Blum is a trusted analyst. He's recommending that these stocks are buy. So I'm going to have a punt. I'm going to buy very small amounts of my portfolio into these particular stocks. On this one, I can see, for example, that there are 5 analysts offering a 12-month target, and the minimum forecast is a 20% rise over the next 12 months. The average forecast is a 63% rise, and the max forecast is 168% rise. So it's not just Gil who's suggesting that Gern is potentially, or Geron Corp is potentially an interesting stock to look at. So let me pop across to where I keep my SIPP, which is actually in an app called Freetrade. So here we are in my Freetrade app, and here's the shares I just bought. So Taysha Gene, £102 worth, Serapta, $101. Then we got to Shattuck Labs, 99 in there, and we've got Geron in there, 97.64. So since I bought these a couple of hours ago, they have jumped around a bit. So we've got a 3% gain in the Taysha Gene, a 1.7% gain in Serapta. Shattuck's is not much movement on that, 0.11, and nearly a 2% loss on Geron. So it'll be interesting to see how these get on over the next week. And there's a good chance that next week something else will take my fancy. But this is, for the 10% of the higher risk part of my portfolio. This is what I'll typically do, is find a theme and follow that theme, really. And for this theme, it's following what Gil Blum, who's one of the Wall Street analysts, is saying. But what I'll constantly do on this channel is look at the different themes I have, because this, following analysis is one of them. I'm also interested in insider buying. So that is where, CEO or CFO decide to go and buy an enormous amount of the shares in their own company, and then have a look at what's the background to that. Is that an indicator that there might be something new going on for the company that's worth looking at from an investing perspective? Or I might be looking at companies that are newly floating on the stock market, that kind of thing. It's all different kind of themes. But if you do follow this channel, you'll see me going into one of the tools, picking a theme, and then coming across my portfolio and buying some shares. And if you are interested in the Freetrade app, which is the one I'm using here, which is actually quite powerful. Actually, I've been using it for 9 months now. I'll also put a link in the description. If you click on there, there's a potential that you might get a free share as well. Okay, thanks for listening today. Good luck.
So if you've heard my outro, then thanks for listening. And if you haven't, then here's probably the most important bit of investing advice you'll hear on YouTube. Don't buy or sell shares in a company based on what someone on YouTube tells you. The big Wall Street analysts have large teams of professionals with access to vast amounts of data on every single listed firm. There are no YouTube gurus who know better than them. Use YouTube to find interesting bits of information on companies that you may otherwise miss, And when you find something interesting, do your own digging and see what the analysts in the big firms are saying. Never invest more than you can afford to lose, and don't expect to get rich quick. If you are interested in my background, I come from 16 years in risk management with PwC and Deloitte. I've never been on a trading floor in my life, but if I had, it wouldn't give me the edge on the big firms because they have big teams and masses of information. So don't look for a guru with an edge. Look for information on companies you're interested in. And if you're looking to invest a large amount of money, don't put it on individual stocks. Choose an index fund. The All World Index is a representation of all the stocks in the world. And if one company goes broke, then the index won't even move. Whereas if you've only invested in that one company, then you may have just lost your pension. Keep it fun, keep it affordable, and subscribe to keep getting my updates. Thanks.